Hi everyone, this is Linda Bennett, your spiritual counselor and psychic host, Metaphysically speaking. And today some of the topics we're going to be covering are music. We are answering an email. And yes, we do look at the emails. We do read the emails. Some of them are repetitive, so we'll pick one and we'll answer that. And like we've had a lot of questions about astrology, and we addressed that on the last show. And we're also going to be talking about, and we have a question on email here about music. And Shawnee, my producer, my executive producer, will read the question, and I will be happy to answer it for you. And then we're also going to be talking about the Kybalion. I will spell this for you, so get your pencils and paper. I will spell it now. K like in kitty cat, Y, B like in boy, A-L-I-O-N. And the edition that I like is the Yoga Publication Society. Or Yogi. What is it? Yogi? Let me look inside. Let me look inside. Yogi.
Okay.
Publication Society.
And if you didn't get that, it is on metaspeak.com as one of Linda's recommended reading books.
Right. This will answer a ton of questions for you.
This is not the Kabbalah.
No, this is not the Kabbalah.
Kabbalah.
This is...
Kybalion.
This is a translation of ancient Greek texts from ancient Egyptian texts from Atlantis. So therefore, this is the modernized version, and the first edition came out in 1912 or 1914, 1912, and I had a book from 1912 that I got from a used bookstore, and an old boyfriend of mine took it. So I have now one from 1940, which is the same thing. You can find us on WTMY Radio, Sarasota. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Blog Talk Radio, and in the Sarasota area, Blog Talk Television. Okay, now I got the business out of the way. Shawnee suggested that I tell you what we're going to talk about first, so you don't get bored finding where you can find us. And let's talk about music first. Why don't you read the email? And please, people, send us your email, because again, we read everything. And
or just leave a comment on the Facebook page.
Leave a comment on the Facebook page. It doesn't matter. Just make a comment. You enjoyed this. Please elaborate on that. Tell me more about this. We can address astrology more. I addressed some of it on the last show. And I will address the Kybalion and what to watch out for in here, because there is a little error based upon the time. You know, when you read a book, you have to look at the date that it was written, because very often certain things were going on politically in the country in which the book was published, and certain things can be said, certain things can't be said, and it'll have a negative or a positive meaning then and a different meaning now. So what is the email question you have on music?
Okay, Linda, love your show. Glad to find you again. And the question is, why does some music sound and feel upbeat and inspiring, and other sounds like nails on a chalkboard, like rap music or acid rock? Thanks.
Everyone who deals with music knows a very important secret. The chakras of your body, the chakras of a tree, the chakras of a planet, those are energy centers, spiritual energy centers. We have 7 major chakras on our body, a total of 144 smaller corresponding interconnecting chakras. That is what acupuncture is based on. The meridians, which your body is actually like a map, north, south, east, west lines, and the chakra points. And music affects not only the mind, but the chakras. That is why with the grunge and the punk and heavy metal, there was sad to say, a spate of suicides and attempted suicides, because it kept hitting the downbeat, the bottom beat of the scale. And Western scale is what, 13 notes. The Eastern scale is 26, which is a more complex scale and hits more of the vibrations in the body.
So
That
like
word
the
was
sitar?
vibration.
Vibration, like the sitar.
Like the sitar. Some Westerners find Eastern music annoying, and that's because they're not accustomed to having the notes between notes, they might think of saying. It's just, until they hear it after a while, it sounds fine, but until that point, it can be annoying. But it's more finely tuned to nature. It's more finely, Chinese music also has more notes than the Western scale. And so therefore, heavy metal, rap music, which I personally hate, I don't care who I'm insulting. I love LL Cool J on NCIS Los Angeles, but I hate rap music. And sadly, it's a venue where a lot of people with no talent have made a lot of money because they can't sing. And if Justin Bieber has a brain in his head, somebody in his camp who really likes him and wants him to have a long career will tell him, practice singing, because he has a nice voice. Then when he does what I call rap crap, he makes himself a moron. And you will not have a long career doing rap. Tony Bennett doesn't do rap. So therefore, rap is the lower chakra. Boom, 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 like a jackhammer. That brings all your energy down to your root chakra, your reproductive organs, which is very tiring. It can be exciting at first, but it's exhausting. And it's depressing because it's pulling the energy away from the higher chakras of the heart, the throat, the ability to speak, the third eye, the ability to see the universe, and the crown of the head, the ability to receive extra blessings. And the soul and the body crave that. They crave the extra blessings. They crave feeling emotions. And so when this is repetitive over and over and over and over, am I annoying you? Good. Over and over and over and over again, you get depressed. It's normal. You cannot help but get depressed. Why do people do it? Because part of the teenage experience is to feel alienated from your parents. It helps you pull away a little bit from mom and dad, unless they're the fabulous type of parents who know that you're a kid and have taught you well, taught you to think for yourself, given you books to read, taken you to museums and exhibits and broadened your horizons, and then you're open to talking with them because you have mutual experiences and you know there's nothing to fear. If you have alcoholic parents like I did, there's not a lot to say to a drunk. And so the same thing with parents who do drugs. Same thing with parents who are out gambling or screwing around. You're not a parent. You gave birth, you're not a parent, sorry. So kids who feel alienated feel more alienated with this music, and it sort of confirms how they feel, but then they get to the point where they can no longer feel. Then the drug and alcohol abuse accelerates. Then the drug and alcohol abuse kills them, or kills somebody else in a car. It is not a positive vibration. And do you understand that wherever there is heavy rap influence, there's also crime? Because they're angry and they're repetitive and they're more alienated. And so they go rob people. They go beat people up. There are statistics on this. Every psychology center has these statistics. There are books out on it. You can read it. It makes you feel miserable and depressed and sad and alienated. And maybe you didn't feel that way to begin with. Everybody experiences feeling alienated. Everybody experiences feeling alone, because guess what? We are alone. We're individual souls split out from the God force. We meet up with soulmates, happy ones and unhappy ones. Soulmates are people you've had karma with in other lifetimes, some of it good, some of it unhappy. And you have to learn to transmute the unhappy into happy and enjoy and improve the happy. So everybody has the experience of feeling alone. I feel sorry for people who are surrounded by cloying family members that never leave you alone, that never, just walk in on you in the bathroom, just walk in on you in the bedroom, just walk in on your life, walk into your house when you're cleaning or maybe making love to your husband, and, oh, well, hurry up, I got something to talk to you about. Guess what? None of your business. Stay home. Make a call. Those people have to have the opportunity to feel alone so they can find out who they truly are. You don't know who you are until you are truly alone, quietly, peacefully. That's why we say you meditate in peace and silence. If you need music to get you started, good, positive, powerful music. When I did my meditation tapes years ago, I created all of the music on the tape. I can't write music. I never could. I can't read music. And when I played piano, I just learned it by ear and repetition. And so therefore, when you're going to meditate, and I want everybody on the earth to meditate, it will be transformed into beauty. Meditation is when, prayer is when you talk to God. Meditation is when God talks to you. Catholic priests and nuns meditate. Buddhists meditate. Everyone meditates. People who practice the Kabbalah in Judaism meditate. So don't think, oh, my religion won't let me meditate. Yes, it will. It has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with spirituality. So music can either elevate you by bringing up the vibration of the chakras, the upper chakras, the solar plexus, that's where your tummy area is, then the heart, the throat, the third eye, the lower part of the forehead between the eyebrows, and the top of the head. That makes you happy. Music can change your mood. Music can make you feel better. Now, I had older friends as a kid, and so I listened to the 50s rock and roll before I was really ready for it, but there was nothing not to be ready for. It wasn't about hump, bump, bump, and all this other crap that they have in music today that is offensive even to me, and I'm pretty broad-minded. I don't want to hear that stuff. I think it belongs somewhere else in the privacy of your home. It doesn't belong on the radio, for sure. It doesn't belong on a tape. It doesn't belong on a CD. And we talked about holding hands and walking home at night and kissing under the moonlight, and the Diamonds are one of my favorite groups. All the groups you see on PBS now that look like they're 100, some of them are, basically. But the music they made was fantastic. The Duke of Earl, this guy comes out in a cape. Duke of Earl, he comes out the back of the audience and he walks down the aisle. Fantastic. I mean, those were performers. Those people had voices. The Platters, I mean, I love them. Yes, my friends were 4 and 5 years older than I was, and some of them were 6 years older than I was, but I was a very mature child. And we all know the story of my life, so I don't need to reiterate it. But, and I was an only child, so I didn't have any brothers and sisters, and my neighbors became my friends. So the music in the 60s is getting a little silly. Then Paul McCartney and the gang of Beatles came along, and I Want to Hold Your Hand. They started out fine. When the more they got involved in LSD, the nuttier their music became. But music changed in the 60s. Acid music, that's music on drugs, downhill. Some of the 70s were better. The disco time, you couldn't be on acid and do the hustle because you'd fall on your face. It was happy. It was momentous. It was opportunistic for you to get better, feel better, get exercise. Nobody doing the disco music was ever overweight because you couldn't be overweight. You just wore it off in 3 dances. That was good music. Then Barbra Streisand, of course, came along. She elevated the Bee Gees. That was elevated music. And then again, we've got the junk for the last 10, 15 years here. But there is some good music. We have Michael Bublé. We have Josh Groban. We have Taylor Swift. That poor kid. I hope she grows up one day. But she writes about all of her experiences in life. And so many kids can relate to it. And Taylor, stop wearing the dark red lipstick. You look like a vampire. Wear something that's a dark rose if you want dark lipstick. Just a comment, personal, doesn't mean anything about your spirituality. I just don't personally like it. It looks angry. And so therefore, anybody who has a decent voice and is making decent music today is improving our lives, is improving the energy. What is her name? She's in opera. Audra McDonald. What a voice that girl has. Renee Fleming. They do opera. Audra McDonald and Renee Fleming did a jazz album. Audra McDonald did a pop album. They are amazing singers. That elevates you. So it elevates you because it affects your subconscious mind. It affects your physical body. Down music is a down vibration. Makes you depressed and distressed, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless. And that's why so many suicides. Teenagers are raging hormones. The sun sign is now coming in because up until the age of about 12 or 14, you're more like your moon sign, which is what your sun sign was in your last lifetime. Your current sun sign is what your rising was, and puberty kicks away sort of a lot of the moon sign energy and brings in the sun. Well, that's different. You feel like a different person because you are a different person. You have different energy flowing through you. Different things are happening, different thoughts are occurring in different ways. So it's natural for you to feel different. So we have to wrap up this segment, and we will be right back with more Metaphysically Speaking, where we'll talk more about music. And hi, everybody. This is Linda Bennett, your spiritual counselor and psychic host for Metaphysically Speaking. We're picking up on music as I have a few more things to say about it. Then we'll talk about the Kabbalion, and then we'll talk about some of the other emails that we have gotten and some of the topics that I wanted to cover. I'm not covering... I have a pile of newspapers here. It looks like a slop hole right here with all my piles of newspapers and articles, but I don't want to talk about those today, except to say that we are borrowing this planet. We are responsible for keeping it clean. We're responsible, I hate to say it, but the war in the Middle East was George Bush's way of showing up daddy and also ensuring that we have plenty of oil. We're dying for oil. Why is the United States not the leader instead of China being the leader of solar production, believe it or not? Why is Florida, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri not leaders? Why are they not leading with solar energy? Explain this to me. Because the petroleum industry has a stranglehold on the throats of the politicians. Norway is a producer of solar energy. Iceland, a producer of solar energy, as well as hydrothermic. Well, it's a volcanic place, and so they've got lots of steam here. And so therefore, they are leaders. If they can be leaders, where is the United States? Screw the petroleum and gas industry. I would never live in a community that had gas, because one fire and the whole place goes up. Yeah, think about that, people, when you're thinking about clean gas. If it comes from the ground, as was said to me by a student whose father owned a coal mine, if it comes from the ground, it ain't clean energy. Think about it. Neither is nuclear. Florida is in a struggle right now with, I feel, my opinion, corrupt governor who is tied to so many business industries, his head is spinning like Beetlejuice. And he doesn't know who to satisfy next. He turned down multi-millions of dollars in federal funding that was desperately needed by people in the state. And what's he doing? Nothing. He's going to bring in his buddies from private industry. So therefore, here's what I want to say about current events, which have gotten worse and worse and worse. We must take care and be gracious to the planet, or it will erupt and not be gracious to us. So petition, do everything you can, get involved in the solar community, find out what can be done in your house, what can be done in your community. We've talked about David Letterman before and his industrial size, Andrew Lessman, who sells vitamins on HSN, his entire plant complex, entire manufacturing facility is solar. And he's in Nevada, Utah, I don't remember which, but he's out there, and yes, they have snow in the winter, but not every day is cloudy. And even on cloudy days, the sophisticated solar collectors collect solar power. And of course, there's a backup generator, but nevertheless, he's not strangled by the petroleum industry. So get involved in that and do everything you possibly can. And also make sure there's clean drinking water. We're going to talk about survival and population, maybe in another part of this segment or another part of the show, not segment, another part of the show. but not everyone can live to be 80. But clean water is everybody's right. Clean, healthy food is everybody's right, which we do not have in America today. We have Frankenfood, which is why so many people have digestive problems. So music can either elevate you or make you depressed. Animals respond to music and to voice. One of my students' cats comes to the phone. She puts it on speakerphone, and the cat comes up. Willow rubs his nose on the phone, and I can hear him little meow meow. Little meow meow. Responds to my voice. Years ago, someone said to me that every time my show was on, her Chihuahua puppies would go to sleep next to the TV. So she got my tapes, and she would put them on because they would cry and bark and yell and irritate the neighbors. She lived in a condo. And so she put my tapes on because she thought, wait a minute, if the dogs calm down and go to sleep to Linda's voice on the TV, maybe they'll do it on the tapes. So she used to wait till they fell asleep, and then she'd run out and do her errands, and she'd come home and they'd be sleeping like little puppy angels. I never intended the tapes to be babysitters for Chihuahuas. However, animals do respond to sound, and they respond to your voice. So if you're screaming, if you're angry, if you've got an angry voice, expect your animals to be receding from you instead of coming to you for affection and love and attention. So remember the tone of your voice, the sound of your music. If you have cable, I'm sure you have the music channels on there. I listen to soundscapes. I listen to classical, light classical, smooth jazz, singers and swing. I love the music from the 40s. I don't know why, but I just love the music from the 40s and the big band era. I love that music. So do all my cats. So will your cats and dogs. So will your children. Children respond to music even in the womb. They have proven that over and over and over again. So music is important, but so is silence, because sometimes you need to hear the sound of your own voice in your head.
So we have an email that was asking a question about music and about if the artist of a beautiful piece of music is a bad person, but they make beautiful music. What is the deal with that?
I think on Charlie Rose it was last week. They were talking about, can you separate the artist from the art? If the artist created beautiful music, beautiful artwork, beautiful poetry, but was a monster, an alcoholic. Hemingway was no bargain. Neither was Picasso. He hated women and he abused them, and all I have to do is look at his artwork. That's very obvious right there. I was an art student. So, can you separate it? You always get the vibration of the person in the music or in the artwork. Instead of smooth sailing, you get smooth sailing. There'll be something if you're perceptive enough. Otherwise, if you're not, and it's produced well, produced meaning that there are a few extra violins, which are uplifting, maybe a little piano music that's uplifting, it may neutralize. But it's very difficult also. You can't separate Picasso's personality from his artwork, because his artwork is his personality. I was never a Picasso fan. You couldn't give me a Picasso unless I hung it in the closet. eBay. So, therefore, he's certainly not the only angry artist. There are a lot of artists that are phony. I was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art years ago with a student of mine, and she was an art student as well. And there was a new exhibition, and the guy had taken blue paper in one series and put different mats around. That's the colored paper you see around the artwork, and then a frame, and called it blue. The next one he called white, because he took white paper and surrounded by different color matting. And she said, "What the hell is this, Linda? Am I supposed to get something from this?" I said, "No. This is called an art scam. Wealthy people will adopt, so to speak, an artist, and the artist will sell them artwork that's basically worthless for, say, $25,000, and they will donate it to the museum for the value that they theoretically paid with a phony receipt. And they get the tax write-off.
Wow.
And we're forced to look at this junk. Just because somebody calls it art doesn't mean it is. There's better graffiti out there, or better artwork as a mural on the side of a building, than there is in some museums. So you can sometimes divorce the artist from the artwork, but not always. And you will get this gut feeling, this kind of unease, this kind of, I don't know, I don't feel so good. What's wrong? Maybe I'm hungry. Maybe I'm not hungry. I don't know. I don't want to stay here and look at this. Or I don't want to listen to this. Wagnerian odes were so overwhelming that they were depressing. Some of Bach's work is depressing. You listen to the music, and it's meant to create a tone. It's an interesting thing we were talking about at class the other night, pardon me, where Stephen Fry, the English performer, the English actor, was on Craig Ferguson. And he was talking about playing Wagner in a new movie or a new play. And he discovered that Wagner had a great influence on Hitler's family. People think that Hitler started anti-Semitism. Well, it's existed all around the world for so many years. He didn't start it. But Wagner himself wrote many pieces, literature, about being anti-Semitic. And much of his work was devoted to that thought. Hitler's family, they happened to be great fans of Wagner and his writings. Hitler was raised Catholic, by the way, and grew up listening to that commentary and studying it, and was imprisoned for, against the state actions, and was greatly influenced by that thought pattern. And when he came out, he was a poor artist. If you look at his artwork, he was very mechanical. There was no life in his art. There was no life in his eyes. They took the life of millions of people. 6 million Jews, 5-6 million others. Homosexuals, Catholics, people who helped the Jews, gypsies, anybody he didn't like. So therefore, music has an intense vibration within and without. Sometimes you can divorce the artist from the artwork, and sometimes you can't.
Okay, good answer. Thank you. Do you want to start with the Kabbalion now?
Is there another voicemail? Another voicemail, or is another email?
We covered them.
Okay. The Kabbalion is, if you study Egyptian quote-unquote mythology, you're familiar with Thoth. I'm saying Thoth, Thoth. And there is a breath with it, and there is a vibration to it, and he is the one that looks like the giant bird with the curved beak. And he was said to be the scribe, the keeper of the truth, the record keeper of Egypt. Now that we know that many of the ancient gods and goddesses in Egypt, were actually from other planets. They traveled back and forth continuously when we lived in Atlantis, just like you hop a plane to go to New York, London, Paris, Germany. You can hop a plane or a ship. And by the way, everybody see the new Star Trek. It is excellent. I don't know why those muscle movies are making more money. They're stupid. But Star Trek has a point. It's great. Brilliantly acted. Brilliantly acted. There wasn't one poor performance in there. There wasn't one bad scene in there. It kept you moving. It was great performances, great points of view. I highly recommend. Do you think that's a good enough recommendation?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, and I have no money in the movie. So they were higher spiritual beings who came to the planet to converse back and forth with ancient Atlanteans, and as Atlantis knew it was going down, it sent out different groups of people to different higher civilizations across the planet to try to indoctrinate them into the male-female energy of God, into the balance of the heavens, look at the stars, and these gods and goddesses that we call today were really high priests, high priestesses from other planets. And so when you see Egyptian artwork with the actual being like Anubis is the way you say it, Anubis, that is the one that they call the jackal god. He's all black, but I met him aboard my spaceship journey, and his skin feels like suede. I asked if I could feel his skin. He said, yes, I know you're interested in that. And his ears were not that big the way it is now in Egyptian artwork. But he did look wolf-like. And just like Bast looked like a feline, a cat, giant cat. That's the way she looked. And you look at people today, Delta Burke, who was on, what was that thing with the three decorators? She was married to Gerald Rainey. She's married to Gerald Rainey. She's very feline looking. Mm-hmm. We had a friend years ago who was very feline looking. And that is the way these people looked. So when they wore the masks, the priests or priestesses wore the masks, they were replicating the energy that was imparted to them by the high priest and priestess from the other planet. Thoth was the record keeper, the keeper of truth, and the Kabbalion is a translation of the ancient Greek translation from the ancient Egyptian translation. When the Library of Alexandria was burned, mostly by the Catholic Church, because it didn't want ancient evil knowledge that disagreed with them, like the male-female energy is the universe, they destroyed ancient Atlantean manuscripts. They also destroyed ancient Egyptian and Greek manuscripts, Mesopotamian, Sumerian. But the Kabbalion is a series of principles and truths that everyone can live by. I caution you that in 1912, the author who translated everything, 1912, the word metaphysics was associated with magic. You know, magic acts and the table tipping and the card playing and all this other stuff. So they give it a negative connotation. That was because many of the people claiming to be psychics or mediums were not. They were charlatans. So in 1912, that was the concept. Today we understand that metaphysics by Aristotle was defined as the unseen world. Aristotle was a sharp guy. I'm going with him. The term metaphysically speaking was given to me many years ago by Yogananda in meditation so that the unseen world and the seen world could come together and people could understand. And we're going to take a short break and we're going to be right back. This is Linda Bennett. Hey everyone, this is Linda Bennett with Metaphysically Speaking, and we're back with you, and we're going to continue a little bit with the Kabbalion. This is our last segment, so I don't want to spend all my time on it, but I want you all to get the book. It's a small book. It's very easily read. The issue I want you to get is the Kabbalion, K-Y-B-A-L-I-O-N. That's K like in kitty, Y, B like in boy, A-L-I-O-N. Hermetic, H-E-R-M-E-T-I-C, philosophy by 3 initiates. And it's got a little emblem on the front. It's got 3 circles with a triangle over that and 3 points on each triangle point, and then a little star within that. And it's by the Yogi Publishing Society. It is available on Amazon. You will see lots of others. I spent last weekend reading 4 different editions, line by line, to see what they're all about, so I could recommend to you. I've had this book. I got this book back in the very early 80s. Then a boyfriend stole it, so I went back to the same bookstore and got another one, but it was not the original one from 1912. This is the reissue of it in 1940. The reason I want you to get this one is because it's the simplest. It's simple enough as it is. Sometimes people think things need to be simplified. Well, this is simple. It's as simple as you can get. If you can read Dick and Jane walk their dog and their cat, Susie and Johnny, then you can read this. And it's got basic principles, and it's got the 7 hermetic principles, mental transmutation, the all, the mental universe, the divine paradox, the all in all, and it gives the different descriptions of each. In some of the other books, it talks more about the author. A third of the book is about the author. And this is pushing the ancient Theophysical Society with Madame Blavatsky and Arthur Conan Doyle and all the different things that were going on in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and they're glorifying this guy, who really doesn't deserve that much attention. We actually don't even know, although it's probable he's the translator. But you don't need a book that floofs up the author. You want the plain, simple little book that's going to give you the basic principles. Remember, metaphysics isn't bad. It just had a bad connotation in those days because of all the charlatans and all the nonsense going on in these seances and table tipping and card games and all that stuff. So today we understand that metaphysics is good. Charlatanism is bad in everything. I don't care if you're a bad pharmacist, a bad doctor, a bad teacher. I don't care what you are. If it's bad, it's bad. So get this, and we will talk about it on our next show. It's an easy read. You could read it in a day and a night, or a couple of days. And this is referring to back in 1912, back thousands of years ago. This is referring to different laws of science that we know today, laws of psychology that we know today. Because, thousands of years ago, they may not have had the automobile, but they weren't stupid. We were never stupid when we came to this planet. We came with all the knowledge and the wisdom of the universe. Then we screwed it up out of greed. 7 deadly sins, the worst is greed, in my opinion. It causes you to want, it causes you to covet, it causes you to lust after, it causes you to steal, causes you to do all kinds of unpleasant things. So, in fact, here in the end it says nothing escapes the principle of cause and effect, but there are many planes of causation. Remember I told you earlier that the causal world is the closest to the God force. Well, they should have used the word the causes of planes of causation and astral. And one may use the laws of the higher to overcome the laws of the lower. This was written thousands of years ago. Please get this book off Amazon. Amazon should send me a little check or something for recommending this. But nevertheless, the truth is right here in front of you. Very easy to understand. And it's just as true now as it is eternally on every planet in every part of the universe. You can also look at my recommended reading list. And I recommended Harry Potter to somebody who's big on science fiction, but science fiction can take you way off in another existence and not really help you function spiritually. So he said, what is Harry Potter one going to teach me? I said, if you read Harry Potter and you don't get anything out of it, you're dumber than I think. He never called me back. Sad to say, because he is a higher spiritual vibration. Very confused, difficult childhood, feeling unloved, very vulnerable, in his Saturn return. Saturn comes back every 27 to 30 years in your life. It makes you feel overwhelmed and depressed, but it makes you take account of your life. It's the planet that's the great teacher. Even watching Harry Potter 1 and 2 on television is great because they stuck to the book. After that, they screwed things up. But they're still worth watching. But Harry Potter talks about loyalty, about caring, about continuous love from parent to child, loyalty between friends, loyalty between people who are good to you and you, doing the right thing even though it puts you, in front of the teacher and you get demerits, doing what is right simply because it is right. It teaches you many positive things, and I hope that every generation reignites a Harry Potter energy. She doesn't even need to write more books. She wrote a little bit about what their life was like 19 years later, sending their kids off to Hogwarts. I forgot the name, Hogwarts. I was just picturing those ugly boars in the front of the Hogwarts. And the continuation of goodness. So you can start with that. You can read Touching Peace or Being Peace. I cannot pronounce his name right.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Thich Nhat Hanh. Absolutely right. There are so many different books of so many different interests, but all basically enlightening you. There are television shows. I like Lost Girl. It's a metaphor for people who are different. And it's a metaphor for people who are using their powers for good and powers for evil. You can catch it on the Sci-Fi replay thing or on demand if you have cable. And the new season starts, I think, in January. I'm a semi-True Blood fan. I hate all the gore, but the lessons about, yes, you have an affliction, but are you going to be a good person or are you going to be a bad person? You have a talent. Are you going to be using it for selfishness or are you going to be using it to help others? So that's on television as well. The new season starts in just a couple of weeks. There's a recommended... I love Babylon 5. If you can find it anywhere, get it. Start with the beginning, go through the end. It's a story of all humanity on all planets. When I had my UFO experience for 4 days, a lot of the figures were similar to those figures in the TV show. And that was before the TV show. So you can get a tremendous amount of interesting information from the movies I've recommended there, from the TV shows I've recommended, and from the books. And I don't mean Kindle. Sorry, Kindle people. I believe in having a book and using a magic marker and using those little sticky sheets where you can, tab a little page that's important to you. Have your book and use them as your friends. The Art of Peace, tiny little book, Morihito Ubushai, something like that. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not saying it right. Art of Peace, tiny little book. I keep it by my bed. I also keep several books about Hawaii with Pele by my bed. Pele not the soccer player, people. Pele, the goddess of fire in Hawaii, but she's actually the fire element of this planet along with the Archangel Michael. Pele and the Archangel Michael work closely together. And she has saved me from more fires than I can count. Remember that one where I heard living room now, and I ran to the living room and the disposal exploded with fire? If I had been standing there, I'd have been horribly scarred and burned, possibly killed. So I'm telling you that is one of the best places, one of the best resources, and also any kind of books. Did you update the books on abuse? Yes. Okay, so if you're a battered woman or you're a battered or abused person, even men can get abused by women. There are women who are bullies, sad to say, but nevertheless, it's true. I think you put that latest one on there.
Well, I definitely put on there the Proof of Heaven, all of the Life After Death books.
Okay.
But
check the abuse books.
What's the name of one of the abuse books?
I don't remember.
All right.
You gave them to me earlier. Well, Men Who Hate Women and Women Who Love Them is on that. Women Who Love Too Much is on there. Some of the more recent ones need to be on there. And remember, if somebody is not making you feel good by love and kindness and graciousness, don't have them in your life. And I'm with Dr. Phil on this. Just because somebody's related to you doesn't mean you have to put up with their crap. If they're abusive people, they're out the door.
You like that new Dr. Phil book, too?
Yes, that new Dr. Phil book, which his name is... I can't remember it either.
All right, we'll put that on the recommended reading.
I just gave it as a birthday gift because he is... he's shortchanging himself. What's the word I want to use? He's sabotaging himself.
Who? Dr. Phil?
No, the person I gave the book to.
Oh. Really?
Philly's doing good on his own.
Okay.
This person, it talks about how people sabotage you. And Oprah did a 2-part Sunday night series on it. And this, you can sabotage yourself. And he is sabotaging himself. He also has incredibly fabulous karma. If he wants something, it appears. I mean, if I need a screw and I'm hanging up a curtain rod in the middle of the night, I expect to find the screw on the table right next to me. But I don't have the karma that he does. Yeah, he is amazing. Yes, he wanted a certain color truck, and the next thing you know, he had a car accident, and that's the truck he got. It was amazing. He's got incredible karma. He can't fail. But he's sabotaging himself. So get the book if you're sabotaging yourself, if things don't keep working out in your life. Maybe you are sabotaging yourself by having these bad friends, allowing your bad relatives to sabotage you. So I think everybody should read the book. Dr. Phil, send me a check. So it's a very good place on the recommended reading list for resources for TV programs, for movies to go see, and for books to get, and get the book and forget Kindle. You want to read some summer novel on Kindle, great. But these are going to be handbooks for you. They're going to be reference books for you.
And this is on metaspeak.com.
Yes.
METASPEAK, short for Metaphysically Speaking, trademarked across the land. Thank you very much.
We were one of the first trademarks issued on the internet. When we called, they had just passed the law. The attorney said, "How could you call today? I'm psychic." We don't have the forms yet. We just got word that they passed the regulations for trademarking on the internet. We were issued one of the very first forms. We sent it back quickly, and we were one of the very first people to be trademarked on the internet. So therefore, check Metaspeak, and we also have a page on there with different gods and goddesses. And some people have said, well, why don't you change it? Well, these are the ones that I feel are important for everyone. And that doesn't mean there are millions of gods and goddesses taking the place of the one god. How many cells do you have in your body? Well, if you're 6 feet tall and 180 pounds, you have about 7 billion cells. That doesn't take into effect all the microbes in your body and all the bacteria in your body. This is just cells. If you're 7 feet tall, you got more. If you're shorter, you got a little less. So why should God have fewer personality aspects than the average 6 foot, 180 pound guy? So the different gods and goddesses represent different personality aspects of God. Just like you. How do you describe yourself? So not even your physical appearance, which is a whole set of descriptions, but your mental, emotional set, your spiritual set of cells, the you. So God is not less complex than you are. So these gods and goddesses, again, represent different phases, different personality traits, different aspects, different lessons that you need to learn. And as you discover some more, maybe through your reading, send them in to me, and we'll examine them, and we'll talk about them on the air. Many people are thrilled with many of the Celtic gods and goddesses. The ones I like are the ones that deal with nature and the ones that deal with dignity. Not the warriors. The Celts were not exactly a peaceful people. There were peaceful tribes within the Celts. Remember, the Celtic area ran from Scotland, Wales, Ireland, England, southern Germany, France, northern Spain, parts of Portugal, etc. So it wasn't just the Irish. And as we know, Europe was not a peaceful place. So I'm not thrilled with those gods or goddesses. I am thrilled with the ones that were teaching people how to be better beings, how to treat nature, how to treat animals, how not to strip away the trees. Because what have you got? Nothing but erosion, no water, no plant life, no food, no nothing. So if you have different suggestions, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to hear your comments. I'd like to know how you enjoy the program. What would you like to see me talk about next? One of my students goes to the Clearwater Marine Science Center all the time, and the dolphins recognize her. And they also read thoughts. Remember back in the 80s and the 90s where they had this dolphin encounters down in Miami and or the Keys, I can't remember where, and the dolphins were bumping into people, and people would go to the doctor and say, oh, look, the dolphin bumped me, and they'd discover a tumor, or a rib was broken or something was wrong. and they fixed it. The dolphins can see your body like an X-ray and an ultrasound. They can read your mind. So we will talk more about the dolphins. We might see if we can call and get her on the air at the time that we do the show. And remember, if you treat life with dignity, it'll treat you back with dignity. I have had many snakes in my yard. I've never been bitten. The alligator, on the other hand, was coming right for me. The one in the back, had I gotten any closer, would have been on top of me. Alligators, by the way, for those of you who don't live in the South, run 35 miles an hour on the land. That's it. As fast as your car is going down through your neighborhoods, the alligator is the same pace. You could be running along with the alligator. On that note, if you just open up your hearts and minds to God's universal truth, you're going to know that God and the angels are always with you. Thanks for being with us.